We are live and you are ready to start the meeting.
Okay, good morning. This is the Maryland Public Service Commission's rulemaking on administrative docket RM81, small generator facility interconnection revisions to COMAR. Let me start by taking roll call just to sort of see who we got in the meeting. And let me start by having the folks that are with the utilities to introduce themselves.
Good morning, Your Honor. Matthew Seegers, appearing for PHI. I have representatives from both PHI and BGE on the line as well.
Okay.
And Crystal Barnett, BGE, and along with the other SMEs that we have on the line as well.
Good morning, Your Honor. It's Damon Krieger from Southern Maryland Electric Cooperative.
Good morning, Tiffany Troutman from Chop Tank Electric Cooperative.
Good morning, Mark Zuga from Potomac Edison.
Good morning, this is Darsh Singh on behalf of Potomac Edison.
Good morning, this is Rose Yoich from PHI.
Good morning, James Mirabili, Baltimore Gas and Electric.
Good morning, John Budd from PHI.
Good morning, Christopher Hoops from Baltimore Gas and Electric.
Good morning, Andrea Harper from PHI.
Okay, anybody with a group, not a utility, but not OPC and not staff? Okay, hearing none. So who's here from OPC?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Jacob Auslander on behalf of the Maryland Office of People's Counsel, and we also have Eli Asher and Robert Garvey on the line.
And who from staff? Going once.
I think Michael Dean is here, but he had some trouble with his mic. I'm not sure he's gotten that fixed yet.
I see. Okay. Is he the only person from staff that we're I see him listed on the thing, though.
Yeah, he's the only technical staff member I see.
All right. With that, I will now turn it over to Commission Advisor John Borkowski and Commission Advisor Ben Baker. Go ahead.
And Chair Hoover, before you begin, I believe CCSA also has a member online.
Well, actually,
Samantha, you're on mute.
Yeah.
And besides CCSA, Sierra Club has a representative online, David Catham.
Okay, sounds good. And Samantha Weaver, are you there? Okay, well, I see her listed, but maybe she's not.
Yeah, it seems the mute's not working, Chair. All right, Mr. Borkowski, I will share my screen and your show, sir.
Okay, thanks, Ben. And good morning, Chair Hoover and Commissioners. John Borkowski, the work group leader. On December 5th, the Commission reviewed the work group's Phase 5 regulation proposals. And the Commission approved the work group's proposed regulation 20.50.09.07 without changes proposed by stakeholders. But then the Commission also remanded several other issues back to the work group related to various regulation proposals in 20.50.06, which are discussed in the work group's January 5th supplemental report, which also describes the work group's updated regulation proposal. Notwithstanding any reversals of positions today by stakeholders, I'm pleased to report that the work group achieved consensus on some of the outstanding issues raised during the RM81 hearing on December 5th. So I'm now going to go through and describe the changes proposed as a result of the work group discussion. So in the first section, which is definitions 20.50.09.02, we changed, or we're recommending, proposing changing 3 different definitions. Definition number 19, which is a hosting capacity upgrade plan. The only thing we did is we added the word utility in the first sentence to make it clear that it was a utility plan. Regarding definition number 30, which is a limited export agreement, the major change in this definition was to reflect the fact that you could have a limited export agreement in either an interconnection agreement or in a separate limited export agreement. Previous to this, we did not have the interconnection agreement terminology, and we had a utility proposal to basically include, be able to include limited export agreements in the interconnection agreement. And then the last definition we changed is right size. We had a significant discussion about right sizing, and I'll discuss right sizing a little bit further when we get to the particular regulation section. But for the purposes of the definition, we change, and this is in definition 51. So I'm sorry, Ben. We changed the definition to include terminology. It talks about right sizing means to increase the size, scope, and cost. So that was added. We also added the terminology about following a distributed energy resource interconnection request. And we also included the terminology in the last part, which is basically needs that are identified by the electric utility through a distributed energy resource forecast. So with that, I believe we have consensus on these 3 definition proposals. Any questions or comments at this point before we go on to the next section?
So if anybody has a question or a statement they want to make on the definition portion of this, just raise your hand. Seeing none, while we move on. Okay, so if we can go to 20.50.09.06P for flexible interconnection options.
John, what was the last letter? Sorry, I heard B, but I don't think it's P. P.
P.
Sorry, my apologies.
Yeah, that's my
there we are.
Siri doesn't understand me either, so in any case. All right, so if you can go down further, because we removed previously, we removed this whole section. Go past where the brackets are. Okay, so now we have the changes. Okay, so the major thing that we did with flexible interconnection options, there was a significant concern from the utilities, particularly SHMECO, regarding wanting to limit flexible interconnection options, at least the limited export agreement, to a level 4. It was proposed level 4 interconnection, which are the more complex interconnection requests. Previously, we had it applicable to all levels of interconnection. So I think we reached a compromise. We agreed that level 1 interconnection requests should be streamlined proposals, and and we should not allow limited export agreements to apply to level 1. There was debate about level 2, but in the end, I think the parties agreed to reach consensus with level 2. Level 2 can go up to 2 megawatts, above 20 kilowatt, up to 2 megawatt. And there was a consensus, or at least agreement, to move forward with the ability to propose limited export agreements in level 2, subject to certain conditions, which I'll discuss as we go through the regulation. So if we can go to item number P2, I'll just go over the changes. I think you got to go back one. Yeah, in P2, the only change that we had is that there were some typos in P2B. So we changed the first part of that to inadvertent export option, and we changed the reference of small generation facility to small generator facility. So nothing more than typos in that section. But in item number 4, we had the majority of the changes. P4, go down to that then. Okay, so what we did here is we basically changed the regulation A to indicate that interconnection customers would request these agreements to avoid the need for a hosting capacity upgrade project to accommodate an interconnection request. So we made it clearer under what conditions we would have these limited export agreements. We also, in subparagraph I, we added the requirement that it should be made available upon request only to level 2 and level 4 interconnection customers. Just as a side note, level 3 is not eligible because that's a non-exporting interconnection. So it's just level 2 and level 4, which reflects the compromise I talked about earlier. We also,
John, I just have a quick question. Do we define what limited export means? I can't remember.
yes, yeah, we have a definition for limited export agreement, and that's definition 30 in 20.5009.02. So that definition, it's an agreement for energy supply to the grid by an interconnection customer that may be managed to specified ramp rates and generation levels for operating conditions as specified in the interconnection agreement or in a separate limited export agreement. But the purpose of the limited export agreement is to avoid an upgrade, meaning an interconnection customer would agree to curtail under certain conditions to avoid an upgrade.
Thank you.
Okay. And then the next item that we added was paragraph 3, which basically talks more about the method of implementation and the control under the limited export agreement would be mutually agreed between the utility and the interconnection customer. So we did not get prescriptive about how these limited export agreements, how control would take place under those limited export agreements, but we provided the intent in the regulation that it's a mutual agreement on how that limited export agreement would be implemented. So with that, I think we have consensus to move forward, and I guess unless there are any objections, I would then propose to move on to the next section.
So any questions or statements or comments on this section? All right, seeing none, go ahead.
Okay, so the next section is 20.50.09.06Q for hosting capacity. We did have a discussion at the RM81 hearing on December 5th about should the commission even approve these in advance. I will note that the commission, there were pre-existing hosting capacity upgrade plan regulations where commission approval was required, but we had a concern raised about should the commission even approve them in advance. That was referred to the Office of General Counsel, and I don't know if we have a resolution on that. And
I would have to recheck with Bob, but I believe historically the commission would not want. I guess we would want to leave flexibility for the commissioners to choose to approve or not approve something. So I don't know if we need to write into our regulations what the commissioners should or should not do, as these are governing documents between the utilities and how they operate. But if you want to leave it in there and it's been done before, that's not the end of the world.
we do have a item under Q2 where a utility may submit, and these plans may be considered by the commission. So there is may versus shall language there. I would say that in the end, regardless of commission pre-approval, these hosting capacity upgrade plans would involve fees to interconnection customers, which at a minimum, the utility would have to come in for a tariff filing. And at that time, presumably, to approve the tariff, you'd be, de facto approving a hosting capacity upgrade plan. So I feel like just my position is that commission approval is required because of the fact that this will result in hosting capacity fees for interconnection customers that are under the scope of a hosting capacity upgrade plan. So unless there are any questions about that, I'm going to move forward.
Mr. Chair, any question real quick?
So actually, Commissioner Richard, go ahead.
Mr. Borkowski, could you just, this seems like it's a useful template, if you will, for what an upgrade plan, a hosting capacity upgrade plan will be. Can you just explain I guess the argument between shall and may?
I think we had a proposal from the utilities with, and I think that we wanted to have some flexibility. To date, we have not had a hosting capacity upgrade plan proposed, and I feel like the work group felt that we wanted to have flexibility as we get through and get some experience with these proposals versus making them, putting mandatory language in the regulation.
Okay, so should we change shall to may then?
Under where?
I'm on page 34. I'm make sure I'm on the same page here. Page 34, 3 hosting capacity upgrade plans shall include. Do you want that to be may include if you want the flexibility?
Oh no, in that particular item, these are the things that the plans should address. So we were not recommending discretionary language there. Only in the item above that, item 2.
Oh, I'm sorry. So we're actually on 2. All right.
Yeah, under the new, I think it's confusing because we added 2 and we renumbered the existing 2 and made that 3. So under 3, we're just saying a hosting capacity upgrade plan should include certain things if it's
Okay.
submitted, but
Okay. Mr. Chair, I have a question for Mr.
Sure.
Burkowski.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so I actually think it might be a little bit confusing. I mean, and maybe I'm just not seeing it. I mean, the point is that if you're doing, you're going to have to do a hosting capacity upgrade plan for the tariff, correct?
the utility would have to come in to get the fees
Okay.
approved in the tariff filing.
Okay, so I think it might be clearer if you had language something like for hosting capacity upgrade plans submitted for tariff approval, those plans shall include, because it is a little confusing for me here, looking at, first a utility may submit and then the hosting upgrade plan shall include. I mean,
I would have no.
and it actually, right, and it
Go
makes
ahead.
sense to me. You don't want. I mean, it's if you had a requirement, then it would seem to me that you'd actually have 2 processes. You'd have this process for utilities getting plan approval, and then you'd have a process for them submitting the plan for tariff approval. That seems to be kind of a wasteful process, extra process. But I think it just seems to me it might be clearer if you put in language saying that it's not required, but it is required for the tariff process.
Mr. Suchman, if you look at the red line I just put under 3, because I think, Mr. Burkowski, correct me if I'm wrong, but the tariff is not actually the hosting capacity
Yes,
plan.
that actually makes Ben, that clears it up.
Okay, so I was going to recommend we bridge it using that red line I've just inserted.
Yeah.
So anybody have any questions or comments on that amendment, so to speak?
I would just say it needs to be that R submitted.
Oh, a little grammatical check. So with that, is everybody happy? Seeing no objection, I guess we can move on. So
Okay, the next section is section R for the MCAM, the Maryland Cost Allocation Method. And by the way, I think we have to go back to hosting capacity because I wanted to point out one other significant change that was made. Actually, there were several significant changes were made in item number Q2. So if you can go back to that, Ben. And this new regulation, it looks lengthy, and it is, but it really encapsulates the agreement by the parties. It wasn't there in the previous proposal. But the key items that I want to focus on here are that number one, we have a proposal to remove cost cap language. Previously, we had cost cap language in both the MCAM and in this particular item. And there was a lot of debate at the first hearing on December 5th that we really wanted to try to remove the cost cap language, or at least we were getting that sense that we needed to work on that. And we do think that there needs to be some level at which, or some threshold where we should be basically considering hosting capacity upgrade plans. And what we determine is that every year for the previous year, once MCAM goes into place, you will have utility filings based on their completed projects the previous year, because that helps determine some of the fees going forward. One of the things that is submitted is data which are the total amount of dollars spent on hosting capacity upgrades during the previous year, as well as the kilowatts of capacity that are installed for hosting capacity projects in the previous year. So what falls out of that is an average dollar per kilowatt to do a hosting capacity project. So instead of having a fixed cost cap, we really agreed that we would use that dollar per kilowatt level as a threshold for determining, when a utility should consider a hosting capacity upgrade plan under the theory that you really shouldn't be paying more in hosting capacity upgrade fees than would actually cost you to do a project on a per kilowatt basis. So that was a major point of agreement by the work group that is reflected in this regulation proposal. And we also clarified that in this regulation proposal that the utility can have multiple hosting capacity upgrade plans, but these plans should be aggregated plans. They're not circuit by circuit proposals, but in the solar ready area concept that was one of the examples of a hosting capacity upgrade plan. You may have two different areas of the system that could have, a hosting capacity upgrade plan. So again, we don't want a circuit by circuit plan. We want aggregated plans, but we are not precluding the ability to have multiple hosting capacity upgrade plans. And there was also clarification that when a utility proposes a hosting capacity upgrade plan, it should address if there is any funding allocation between ratepayers and interconnection customers in that plan, and that's one of the plan elements. So those are the three major items that we resolved in this new proposal. So I'll just open it up for any comments or questions.
So I think Commissioner Barve has been trying to join the conversation. Go ahead, Commissioner Barve. Let's see if there's some technical issue with you. So. And I think he must be not connected. So.
Yeah, he's speaking. It's just not coming through.
Yeah. So is he muted himself, or is there a way that we can?
He's not showing as muted. It's probably a technical issue on his end, but.
So the suggestion is he should like log off and try and log back in.
That's probably the best option.
Okay. So why don't we take a little pause right now, and Andrew, why don't you send him a message to do that, and then we'll wait till he fully joins, and then we can proceed again. So.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, while we're waiting for Commissioner Barbe, I just have a quick question for Mr. Murkowski. So is the thinking that there will be differing plans depending on the different technologies that are going to be interconnected as well? So are you thinking about having sort of perhaps multiple solar plans or wind plans, or is it going to be sort of interconnected, a single plan, but perhaps sort of the plans will be regional?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mentioned the solar ready concept, which is technology specific, and Exelon actually proposed that as an example. The solar ready plans that are in place in Texas, for instance, was one of the models that we looked at, and that was technology specific for solar. But in our proposal, we were technology agnostic. We didn't want to preclude combination of energy storage and solar. So we actually, in our report, called it DER ready areas instead of solar ready areas to highlight the point that we were being technology agnostic. Because really, when it comes down to it, these plans are to interconnect DERs, whether they be solar or storage or wind. They're to interconnect DERs.
Okay. Do we have any update on Commissioner Barbe?
He is trying to download the WebEx app and get in that way. So it may take a few
All right.
minutes.
Sure. Okay. No problem.
All right, we're going to try a very sophisticated hack. I'm going to put the phone up against my computer.
Okay.
Commissioner
Alrighty.
Barbe, do you want to try? You guys can't hear?
No, we don't hear anything from him at least. So.
Okay.
Okay, I'll phone in and I won't be able to see the screen. That's what I'll do.
Okay.
Hi, Commissioner Barbe. There's a different option. If you look at the audio options on the bottom left of your screen where your microphone is, there should be a menu there for audio options, and you should be able to actually try and switch your audio and use your phone for your audio, but keep your laptop on for your video.
Oh, there you are. See,
back.
Can you hear me? Yeah, we can see you now. We can see and hear you. So I mean, you're a little fuzzy, but you're at least there. So.
You hear?
Well, I guess the problem is the sound is a little sporadic. So, so the connection seems like it's not complete.
Why that isn't working. Everything's checked off as it should be.
I did sort of hear that. So, but again, you're kind of going in and out. So.
This can happen on rainy days, unfortunately.
Oh, I see.
Okay, well, just go ahead. If I have to ask a question, I'll text it.
Okay.
Commissioner
All right.
Barbe, if you turn off your video, your audio might come through more clearly. We should try that because your audio is coming through your actual laptop now. Can you try and speak again?
I'm not sending a video now.
Right. And actually now we hear you without any problems. So
okay.
We can't see you,
right,
but we
fine.
can hear you. So okay. So back to the original. I mean, if you have a question about something we've already discussed, go ahead. So
I've forgotten the question already.
Okay, that's fine. All right. So John, why don't you take us take over again, and we'll go forward. So.
Okay, thank you, Chair Hoover. I was just finishing up the regulation .06R, .06Q, which was hosting capacity. So I don't have anything else to discuss, and I guess we're at the point where if stakeholders have any comments or the commission has any questions, I think we should hear them now before I move on to the next section.
Okay. Anybody have anything they want to ask about or state? All right.
Commissioner Barbe, I see your hand is up.
I just put my hand down.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. Okay, John, go ahead.
Okay, so the next section is the Maryland Cost Allocation Method, or MCAM, and it's section 20.50.09.06R. I think that, while the utilities had significant concerns with implementing MCAM at the initial hearing, I do think that the combination of the fact that the commission was generally supportive of MCAM, but also trying to highlight some of the flexibility in MCAM with regards to requesting waivers and basically basically requesting waivers and being able to, if they were having trouble implementing a locationally based MCAM, they could come in for good cause and petition for a non-locationally based MCAM. I think after having that discussion, I'm happy that it appears that the utilities are agreeing to move forward with the MCAM proposal. So I just wanted to mention that there were no changes as a result of that dialogue, but I wanted to mention that I think we're getting past some of those objections and agreeing to implement at this point. So the final area with MCAM was regarding right sizing, and if you recall, there were significant concerns expressed, particularly from the commission, from the bench, about the ability to have utilities come in and having to explain all their right sizing decisions. I think there were some concerns about this being burdensome on staff, interveners, on the commission, and really, there was some thought that utilities should be able to plan their systems and then come in for a prudency review at the appropriate time, just like they do for any other investment, as opposed to having the commission approve these right sizing projects ahead of time. So with that, there were some concessions made and discussions, mainly with OPC, who was pushing the pre-approval. I think they're agreeing now to not bringing these right sizing projects in advance for approval, as long as there is something that's codified in regulations that requires utilities to describe their project right sizing projects, their forecasts, inputs and assumptions when they come in for rate case, to assist them and other stakeholders in a prudency review. So with that, we modified the regulation R6. If Ben can go to that. So that kind of encapsulates what I just discussed. Utilities shall describe all hosting capacity upgrade project right sizing proposals, describing their forecasts, inputs, assumptions in their next rate case to assist stakeholders in a prudency review. And if you recall, we did have a definition that we discussed earlier about what right sizing was, which we also changed as a result of that discussion that we had post the initial RM81. The additional change that we made in this section is we removed the previous item number 7, which referred to cost caps, and I discussed that earlier when I discussed MCAM, that we agreed to remove the cost cap language in the regulation. So with that, I don't have anything else, and just open up for questions or comments.
Any questions or comments from anyone on section R?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think it's important. I know that OPC raised the issue of making sure that this is a topic that is discussed in the distribution system planning work group, and I just want to emphasize that is really important, and that issues around right sizing are really sort of front and center. They should be front and center in looking at how to plan the system to include non-wire solutions. So I just want to, I like what's been done here. I like the language, but I do want to encourage continued efforts on this, and to have those efforts be reflected in the work that the distribution system planning working group is doing.
Thank you, Commissioner Sushman. That actually is one of our recommendations, which I hadn't gotten to yet. I know when we take a motion, it'll be, or when the commission takes a motion, it'll be mainly about approving the regulations. But, you know, I would like, I think it would be helpful if we could get a statement supporting what you just said in the minutes for this rulemaking session, so that we can basically just have it in the minutes, and I can have a chat with the distribution system planning work group, and that way we might be able to avoid you know, having the commission have to issue an order requesting the distribution system planning work group to you know, to consider this in their efforts.
Okay, well, so just assume that I have made that motion when it's the appropriate time for it.
So let me do this. First, anybody have any problems with what Commissioner Sussman is suggesting? All right. So Andrew and Amanda, as we get to the end, why don't we come back to this and figure out a way to officially memorialize this suggestion? So.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, Andrew.
Okay.
Just for your note, section 3 of the report, the supplemental report, and the recommendations contain some wording for your consideration. Okay. I guess at this point, if you recall from the previous hearing, we had discussed 20.50.09.06, and we just revisited the items that were remanded back to the work group. We also had a discussion of 20.50.09.07, and the commission actually had made a motion. This was the meter collar adapter regulations. The commission made a motion to approve that without changes proposed.
One second, John, before we move off of 06. So does anyone have any other questions or comments about related to 06 before we move to 07? Okay, looks like we're okay, so go ahead.
Okay, so 07 was approved, or the motion was made to approve 07 at the last hearing, and that was approved by the commission. Commissioner O'Donnell at that time had conditioned his approval on getting a response to a question that we have addressed in Appendix A regarding cost if the installation of a meter collar adapter would require modification. So I think that I'm hoping that that successfully addressed Commissioner O'Donnell's concerns. And at this point, when we had the original stakeholder comments on the remainder of the regulations, the only suggestions that were made were by Schmecko, but it was really some suggestions in some of the further sections beyond 20.50.06. Excuse me, 20.50.09.07. It was mainly changes involving, you know, an alternative with flexible interconnection options. I think because of the fact that we made some changes that I described earlier, I do not think that those previous issues exist from Schmecko's. So at this point, all the sections beyond 07 that we're recommending, I believe, are consensus. So that would involve changes to 20.50.09.09, level 1 review, 20.50.09.10, level 2 review, 20.50.09.12, level 4 study review, 20.50.09.13 dispute resolution, and then 20.50.09.14 record retention reporting requirements. So I'm not aware of any non-consensus involving those sections. So I guess we can open it up for questions on any of those sections.
So any comments, questions from commissioners or parties? I'm not seeing anything. All right. Anything else from you, John? Or
no, I think at this point we're ready for a motion.
Okay. All right. So I will move that we publish the following draft revised regulations in accordance with the changes made in today's proceeding in the Maryland Register for notice and comment, subject to non-substantive changes necessary to conform to the COMAR drafting requirements for sections COMAR 20.50.09.02, 20.50.09.06, 20.50.09.07, 20.50.09.09, 20.50.09.10, 20.50.09.12, 20.50.09.13, and 20.50.09.14. We'll start with Commissioner Sushman.
Aye.
Commissioner Barve.
Aye.
Commissioner Richard.
I vote aye.
I vote aye. And then I further move that we direct the distribution planning work group to further study utility right-sizing methodologies. Commissioner Sushman.
Aye.
Commissioner Barbe.
Aye.
Commissioner Richard.
I vote aye.
And I vote aye on both motions. You have forgotten that. So anything else? John, Ben, Andrew?
No, sir.
No, sir.
I have nothing else.
Okay, and I nothing from the parties. So with that, I thank everybody for your participation today, and you'll see these in the Maryland Register in the next few weeks. So, and with that, we're adjourned. Thank you.